Bhagine Bhavadare Sundanana also Teta Satashi Srimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavan Ki Jai. Shri Radhakrishna Gopata Sayam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govaran Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Majaranam Ki Jai. Jagadasami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Lasadeva Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Agana Tivadanga Shah Gananujana Shrakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So the topic for tonight is concerning the holy name, which we do chant. And we're going to take some excerpts from the Harinama Cintamani, which was written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the spiritual master of Gorkashodas Babaji Maharaj, who was the spiritual master of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of ISKCON founder Acharya His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts out the Harinama Cintamani, which is a book about of course, Cintamani means like a desire stone, something that you get whatever you want. It's something like the original form of Aladdin's lamp. Everyone's heard of Aladdin's lamp? Yeah, you rub on the lamp, the genie comes out, says what? Anyone know what the genie says? Whatever you want, your wish is my desire. So Cintamani is like that, but you have to ask for something spiritual, nothing material. So, and he quotes this very, very nice verse from the Padma Purana, which is Nama Cintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Bina Namanamano, which, to summarize, means the name of Krishna is Cintamani. It's like a desire tree, desire stone, and it is non-different from Krishna. It is complete, it is pure, and it is eternally liberated. And when one chants the holy name, one is associating with Krishna. So, the Harinam Cintamani tells a story of when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, who appeared 500 years ago, was speaking, actually over 500 years ago. It was 500 years ago when I was a young man, but now, somehow or other you don't want to get old. So, it's over 500 years, well over 500 years ago. So Lord Chaitanya appeared well over 500 years ago, and he is Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and he is teaching the Yuga Dharma. And one of his primary associates was called Hari Das Thakur. Hari Das Thakur was born in, let's say, a Muslim family, but he was so attracted to the chanting of the Lord's holy names, he decided to become a follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, really the background of Haridas Thakur is quite interesting. Let's go back over 5,000 years ago. Over 5,000 years ago, there was someone with 4 heads. Oh my God. Who was that? Lord Brahma. Keep everybody awake. He had 4 heads, and he did something really naughty. What did he do? He stole the cowherd boys and calves from Krishna, just to see, have some fun. And of course, he did offer so many nice prayers after he was rectified. But as a punishment, he had to take birth in a particular type of family. But he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when the Lord punishes someone, it's not simply to punish someone, it's to bring someone to a higher frame of consciousness. So without a little bit of austerity, or I don't want to use the word suffering because that's going to discourage many of you, but as I say, no pain, what? No gain. No gain. Okay, got it. So he took birth as Haridas Thakur, and Lord Chaitanya, in order to show that the chanting of Hare Krishna is so powerful, he used Haridas Thakur, who was Lord Brahma previously, as an example of someone who could become the main acharya of chanting Krishna's name. It's called the Nama Acharya. So that's pretty amazing. And also it illustrates the point that it doesn't matter what one's background is. Even Krishna says that in the Gita. Yepi anti paramagatim. That one can be a Shudra or even a king or president. And sorry about that. And if he approaches Krishna, he can go back to Godhead. There's no prerequisite. We don't accept the material caste system that someone is born in a certain place or a certain type of family, and that's what they're relegated to be for the rest of their lives. It's not like that. One can be whatever they want to be spiritually. This is real equality. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually at the forefront of this equality movement to destroy all sorts of caste distinctions. because whoever joined him, it didn't matter. So Haridas Thakur was the Namacharya. And one time he met with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and Lord Chaitanya began to ask him questions. And this is interesting. Sometimes the teacher will ask the student questions. Actually, it's not sometimes, it's quite often, isn't it? If you're a teacher, you ask the student just to see if they know the stuff. It's called a test. So Lord Chaitanya was giving like a final exam to Haridas Thakur. And he said to Haridas Thakur, how can all the jivas be delivered in this age? Jiva means us, individual spirit souls in different species of life, humans, animals, plants, atoms. That's jiva. So how can they be delivered? And first, Haridas Thakur said, well, how am I capable of instructing you, my Lord? However, if I say something, it is you speaking through my mouth. This is the humility of a great devotee. He understands that it's not me speaking, I'm simply being utilized as an instrument by Krishna. So, Lord Chaitanya, as I described, was in Puri. And Puri, of course, is where Lord Jagannath is. And he was doing the chanting of the Lord's holy names. We'll get to that a little later. And Haridas Thakur was known as the Namacharya. So first of all, Haridas Thakur began to describe something called the Yugos. And Yuga means different ages. There's 4 basic ages, which revolve in a cycle, just like we have the 4 seasons. Actually, in India, you have 6 seasons, but that's a different thing. But the seasons follow one after the other. So the first Yuga, universal cycle, is called Satya Yuga. That means where everybody's good, basically. And they're all like Paramahamsas. Paramahamsa means like a topmost swan-like ecstatic person. And then after that, you have the Treta Yuga. I mean, sometimes some of the yugas are a little reversed, but that's technical. And then, religious principles diminish a little bit more. There's 4 religious principles: cleanliness, mercifulness, truthfulness, and austerity. And in each yuga, one of them starts to go away. Kali Yuga, of course, which is the last one after the Dwarpa Yuga, which is the 3rd yuga, the only principle remaining at the beginning is truthfulness. And I'm seeing it disappear every day. So we are in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the Iron Age, ocean of quarrel, Kalair, Doshanat He Rajan, Ashteko, Mahadguna. There's so many descriptions of Kali Yuga. If you're interested, read the Bhagavatam. It gives an elaborate description of the different things in Kali Yuga. One of the things is that people will consider someone else to be religious just because he dresses like that. Uh-oh. So, I'm in trouble. So I shouldn't have mentioned that one. But anyway, in other words, religion will be just a change of dress. And if you got money, you're considered high class. Don't we see that nowadays? If someone has a lot of money, they're high class, even if they are A-double-S-S. So, A-double-S. Anyway, so they're considered high class. So that's Kali Yuga, and here's a little depiction of it. Pretty miserable place. And everything's deteriorating, and Varnashram is really not applicable or existing in this age, and Sankhya and Yoga, and all sorts of things are diminishing. Even in many cases, the deity worship is actually diminishing. And so we're going to talk about the holy names that can actually eradicate all of the evils of this particular age. And of course, that's the rest of that verse that I began to quote before. Kaler Doshanat He Rajan Asheko Mahadgunat Kirtanad Eva Krishna Sha Mukta Sangha Parambhajat. There is one good quality in this age of Kali, and that is simply by chanting the Lord's holy names, one can become liberated, go back to the spiritual world. So, in this world, names are simply designations, like you see in this particular slide. Yeah, that's the one out there. That you can give something a label, but that label is different from the thing to which it is labeling, right? Or give something a name. The typical example that Prabhupada would give was, if you chant water, 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 you're not going to quench your thirst, because it's just the name, it's not the substance. Whereas with Krishna, Krishna is exactly the same as his name. If you say Krishna, Prabhupada would often say, Krishna is dancing on the tip of your tongue. You're invoking the presence of God. Just think about it. Many times when we're chanting the what's called the Panchatattva Mahamantra, some of you have heard that before, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda, Shiveta Gadadha, Shivasati Gaur, Bhaktivinoda. I start thinking, wow, I'm invoking the presence of the Panchatattva. There is Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Seriously. It's not that you have to see with these eyes. What can you see with these eyes anyway? There's a lot of things happening in this room you can't see. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that if you close your eyes, you cannot even see your eyelids. Isn't that amazing? I can't even see my eyelids now. So what to speak of other things that are going on. But you can hear the spiritual realm. You can actually, Goloka, Premadana, Harinama, Sankirtan, this holy name descends from the spiritual world. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, has spread under the instruction of his spiritual master and under the instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ultimately, the holy names in every town and village. And literally, that's happening. Now, even you go on YouTube, anyone's heard of YouTube? And you go on YouTube, and there's so much chanting and kirtans going on. I saw a beautiful kirtan today that was, and maybe if we have time, if Aditya lets me do this, we have time at the end of the presentation. There's a beautiful rendition of the Tulsi song done by a group of professional not professional devotees, but professional musicians who were devotees in Russia. And I'd like to show that to you. But anyway, and of course, that was the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with his associates, this kirtan movement, and there's that picture again. So then Haridas Thakur began to explain a little aspects of our philosophy so one can understand what's called the Siddhanta. That means the relationships, or Sambandha Gyan, the relationships between the different energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's the material energy, spiritual energy, and there's us, as marginal. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Shedrakya Tata Para Vidikarma Samganya Tritya Shakti Ishate. Marginal, we can go either way. So it's important to understand that point when chanting, because if you associate with the modes of nature, you can go there. Like Krishna says in the Gita, Karanam Guna Sangasha, that our entanglement is based upon Guna Sangha, and our liberation is based upon Sat Sangha, or eternal association. So, and in the process of becoming spiritually realized, there's something called sadhana. You got to practice in the beginning. Many people think that they can become completely spiritual realized instantaneously by taking a pill. I wish I had that pill. In the 1960s, incidentally, people thought they had that pill. I'm not going to tell you what it was. But it didn't work. They became immersed in an illusion within an illusion. Intoxication does that to you. You're not only an illusion. How are we an illusion? We think we're the body. I think I'm a sannyasi. I think I'm 95 years old. Not really. But that's an illusion. What am I? Jivara Swarupohi Krishna Das. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. So by practicing this called sadhana, one can actually try to eradicate yourself by eradicate the illusion or your association with the illusion. And the interesting thing about chanting the holy name, because this whole class is about chanting, is that the sadhana and the sadhya are exactly the same. Sadhya means the goal. It's not that you chant Krishna's name now and then, hey, I'm liberated. No more chanting. Thank God. Get rid of this bead bag, Yeah, take it away, 16 rounds. Oh my God. And all this practice, and now I'm liberated. No. The chanting goes on forever. What do you do in the spiritual world? You chant. Because the chanting is Purna Shudha Nitya Mukto. It is full of bliss. It is eternally liberating. It's the only song, the chanting the names of God, the only song you can keep chanting eternally. You never get tired from this chanting. So the sadhana is, because here we depicted people playing the piano, because the sadhana would be practice, practice, practice. But of course, when one achieves perfection at piano playing, they also play the piano. That would be kind of stupid to say, oh, I'm practicing playing the piano. Why are you practicing playing the piano? So I can give it up later on. So, very stupid. And so also one has to understand in accepting association, because we talked about sadhu sangha before, proper association, we have to understand who is a Vaishnava or different varieties of Vaishnavas, because we want to be able to take the topmost association. And so these three varieties of Vaishnavas, and not that we disrespect any of the varieties. One type is called the Kanishta, one who chants maybe not regularly, and the second type is chanting regularly, initiated, and we actually make friendships with such a person. And the third type is one who inspires others to chant just by his presence. And that, of course, you see in the picture. One of the examples of that is His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. When I first heard Srila Prabhupada chanting, I couldn't get the Maha Mantra out of my mind. It was just, I thought I should see a psychiatrist. Because it kept playing, but Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And actually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke about this when he was speaking to Prakashananda Saraswati, one of the Mayavadis in Benares, that he said, my spiritual master gave me this Hare Krishna mantra, and I started chanting, and tears came to my, of course, tears didn't come to my eyes, but anyway, Lord Chaitanya was saying, tears came to my eyes, and I asked my spiritual master, what kind of mantra have you given me? It's made me crazy. And the spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya, was teaching by this particular example. He said, his spiritual master said, I'm very pleased you've achieved perfection. So someone like Prabhupada, you just read one of his books. This is an advertisement for Aditya Narayan again. You read the books, and it just like goes, Bhavanti Rit Karna Rasayana Kata. It goes from the ear to the heart. And then you naturally want to chant. You naturally want to be a devotee. It's not an artificial thing we have to go around telling people, you are going to hell unless you join the Hare Krishna movement, right? We don't have to tell people that. It is true, but we don't. No, it's true. We don't have to tell people that. We just give people a higher taste. Raso Varzam Rasya Pisha. Parandrasa Devarte, right? That's our process. Here's Krishna consciousness. Try it. When I used to go to the universities to attract people to Krishna consciousness, I would give people beads, and I said, you just chant one round, come back and tell me how you feel the next day. Come back and they'd say, wow, what did you put in the prasadam? I said, don't worry, try 2 rounds today. And next thing you knew, they were going on Sankirtan. So of course, we should always seek that better association, and we have Prabhupada's association in his books and through his teachings. So the holy name, as we mentioned before, is like Cintamani. It gives the fruits of one's desire. So if one really has something that you want in this world, akama, sarvakama, mokshakama, dharati, tuvrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param, then chant. We're not going to find fault with you for that. Then just chant. But this dharma, artha, kama, and moksha really won't give you satisfaction. Dharma means just mundane religiosity, artha, economic development. We have no problem with that. Kama, lust or enjoyment, and then just moksha means I'm so frustrated, get me out of here. It's not going to give you happiness because the condition of the soul, the nature of the soul is to be active. And the only thing that will give the soul, that's us, happiness is the fifth goal, what's called Panchama Purushartha, the fifth goal of human life, which is loving Krishna. And when one chants the holy name properly and purely, then one gradually gets revealed to one the nama, of course the name, the rupa, guna, lila. Actually got them first. So one gets revealed to one the qualities of the name, the qualities of Krishna, the form of Krishna, and finally the lila or activities of Krishna appear to one internally. That's pretty amazing, because everything's there in the holy name. And when we say Krishna, it means Krishna and everything pertaining to Krishna. What he does, what he looks like, his devotees, everything is there in Krishna's name and the spiritual world. And so it's important to chant what we call the personal name of Krishna. Of course, chanting a secondary name of Krishna is good. Secondary name of Krishna means a name that refers to his position. Like you use the word God. Like you say, oh my God. Of course, that was the name of a movie in India. Oh my God. So that's also good. If you pray God, 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 that's very good. Actually, before I joined or became a devotee of Krishna, hopefully I am one, I would always pray to God. I said, my dear Lord, please show me the way. Send me a teacher. And of course, he sent Srila Prabhupada to teach me. So that's okay. But that's a name referring to God as far as his position is concerned. Like if you say Supreme Controller, that's a name of God. Or Paramatma, using that Sanskrit. Paramatma means the Supreme Soul, or the Super Soul. But the personal name is actually much more effective in reaching Krishna Prema. Personal name means referring to Krishna in terms of his activities in the spiritual world, his relationships in the spiritual world, his qualities, etc. And so as one progresses, one will go through 3 stages of chanting. Now, many people are on that first stage. What's the first stage? Anyone know? Offensive stage. See, he's offensive. The second stage, why do we have a picture of a boar on the second stage? Because that's called Namabas. Namabas has nothing to do with the boar. But the reason I have a picture of a boar there is that Lord Chaitanya, Haridas Thakur in this book, gave the example that when people in India who are not part of the Hindu culture are attacked by a boar, they chant Haram, 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 which means how horrible. But they're also chanting. And they get benefit. That's really nice. Like if you go to a nice hotel like Ramada Inn, you're making spiritual advancement. Ramada, where are you going? Ramada Inn. Ram, Ram, Ram. I mean, it's like Valmiki. Before he was Valmiki, he was just chanting what? Mara, Mara, Mara. It became Ram, Ram, Ram. That's called Namavas chanting. And of course, the third stage is the pure chanting. And until one gets to the pure stage, if one is simply on the Namavas stage, everything is very unclear. But this Namavas stage, even if you can't come or haven't come yet to the pure stage, is so potent that in the Namavas stage, then all inauspicious things go away. It's more good fortune than all sorts of mundane religiosity. All your karma is destroyed, including Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma, for those of you who don't know, means what you're suffering from right now. It's all destroyed. 100% of your karma. So you don't even have to worry about your horoscope anymore. Horoscope is like binoculars where you can see horoscope. You don't have to worry about it. Prabhupada said every time you chant and dance, what happens? And clap your hands, the lines change. I'm not going to let you see my lines. But the lines change. And your good fortune. Prabhupada said, I have created your good fortune. That's amazing. And he said that it's our business to go out and create other people's good fortune by distributing books, right? Where's he's downstairs. Okay, you can tell I said it. So it's our business to do that. So we mentioned namabas, even accidental chanting, joking chanting, which we'll talk about in a second. Sins are destroyed. One gets liberated. Kali's effect goes. Ghosts and demons are gone. We talked about Prarabdha karma. An unfavorable planet is more powerful than all the Vedas and holy places. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? Yep. That's a dispensation for Kali Yuga. So there's higher and lower namabas. You can, lower means you're meaning something else. It's called Sanketa. Like we have our friend Jamil. He was calling for his son. What's his son's name? Anyone know? Narayan. And these nice people, the Yamadutas, were coming to take him on a vacation. And he got saved from having to go on vacation and paying for it. So the Vishnudutas came and saved him. And there's also joking, where you joke, oh, those Hare Krishnas, they're so funny. Or making fun, like we have like Shishupal, or Jarasandha. Actually, Jarasandha is more appropriate in that regard. Disregarding, ignoring, and there's higher Shraddha Namabha. It's called Shraddhana. Shraddha means faith. That one actually chants and they try their best and they have faith and they're trying the best to clear things up. But even if you're doing that, you have to be careful of one major problem, which is impersonalism, Mayavada philosophy. Here is someone, you don't know him. His name was Pondrika. He was like many of the incarnations of God that you see come in India nowadays who declare themselves to be God, but he was there over 5,000 years ago. So he told Krishna, I am God, I play a flute, I have my extra 2 arms, I have my chakra and club and all those other lotus and etc. And he said to Krishna, who is actually God, he said, give up your symbols. And Krishna said, no problem, I'll give them to you. First one you get is the chakra. So he sort of literally, figuratively lost his head. So one has to avoid people who say that I'm God, you're God, we're all God, the latest incarnation, particularly because that will poison one's actual love for Krishna. One has to avoid Mayavadis and Pondrikas. One must serve a bona fide guru to actually go higher than Namavas stage. And of course, we are so fortunate we get a chance to serve as Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in our Krishna consciousness movement. Because someone like Srila Prabhupada is so exalted, so close to Krishna, that Krishna, we were just reading this in the Bhagavatam, Krishna doesn't even know how he can repay his pure devotee because his pure devotee is so dedicated to him. So Krishna becomes the servant of his pure devotees. And it's so powerful, as we see here, that if one takes the foot dust from a pure devotee, such as Srila Prabhupada, the foot bathing water, or prashanam remnants, one can become immediately purified. It's amazing. Actually, I said I wouldn't mention it. We have one devotee here who used to cook for Prabhupada regularly. Won't mention. I told him I wouldn't mention his name. Anyway, so then you have the example by the association of pure devotees. Here's another friend of mine, Magrari, who I went to school with. So by his association. The McGraw was a hunter. He was half killing animals. He had I'm not going to tell the whole story. He had the association of Narada Muni, who told him about his future if he continued killing animals and showed him what would happen. And by Narada Muni's association, he became an absolutely pure devotee. He wouldn't even step on an ant after that point. That's what you see in this picture. And so when one becomes a pure devotee, there's principal characteristics, which are absolute surrender to Krishna, and then marginal characteristics, which have to do with one's varna, because one serves Krishna according to one's varna. Like Arjuna, he served Krishna by being a Kshatriya, right? So if someone's a Kshatriya, they can go back to Godhead protecting the devotees. Like we have a nice Kshatriya in the back who's protecting me. So he can go back to Godhead. And, and someone else can go back to Godhead giving the class, and someone else can go back and do deity worship, someone else can go back to Godhead cleaning the bathrooms. All these things Krishna sees equally. What Krishna sees is the bhakti in the heart. The external activity is according to one's nature, but the bhakti in the heart is the important thing. And so one has to very carefully avoid criticizing devotees or criticizing a sadhu. And one should be careful criticizing someone for their previous activities or accidents or even some physical deformity or something like that. And avoid the association, just like we see here, someone's a proud member of the Bad Association. So if you avoid bad association, you won't be offensive. If you associate with people who have the right attitude. And you should be very careful and think about this. Learn to discriminate between the different types of Vaishnavas, which we mentioned before. The Vaishnava Abhastam is the first type, and then the Majjhima and the Uttama, which is the topmost devotee of the Supreme Personality. And avoid the 10 offenses. Here's 9 of the offenses. We already mentioned the offending the pure devotee. Just quickly, going over the 10 offenses. Phew, it's a lot to go over. Don't consider the demigods equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Follow the don't disobey the instructions of the spiritual master. Don't blaspheme Vedic literatures. That's number 3. Don't give some perverted interpretation of the, don't consider the glories of the holy name imagination. Don't speculate on the glories of the holy name. Don't maintain material attachments. Don't think that chanting Hare Krishna is one of the rituals in the Vedas. And let's see. Yeah, and then the final one is that final one is not give up material attachments. Yeah. The final one is after hearing so many instructions, maintaining material attachments. Anyway, so we're not going to go over all those, but ultimately all those offenses are connected with the offense of inattention. Here we see someone who was inattentive because he was spaced out, and we can cure this inattention in chanting by cultivating the 6 surrendering principles mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Accepting things favorable, rejecting things unfavorable, and having good association, ultimately. And by doing this, we'll actually understand the 64 qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna has 64 qualities, Lord Vishnu has 60 qualities, and then Lord Shiva has 55, and we have 50. 50 is pretty good. When we become Krishna conscious, not now. You can't say, well, these are all my 50 qualities. These are the qualities of the pure jiva. And everyone is qualified. This is the adhikar. Everyone has the, Lord Chaitanya mentions this in a Shikshashika. Everyone has the adhikar to chant. That means the right to chant. It's not that you have to have some prerequisite. And other things, we're almost finished. Don't worry. The other thing is that we have to avoid the 3 types of ignorance. That is ignorance about the name, ignorance about God, who Krishna is, and ignorance about the soul, and conquer something called anarthas. Anartha means things you don't want. And these three types of anarthas are material thirst, just wanting something, I need something, I have to have it, unlimited desires. And the second one is the weakness of the heart. And the third one is offensive towards other living entities, towards Vaishnavas, towards the spiritual master, towards the holy Dham, towards the deities. And the Guru gives instructions on how to do this. So it's important, the connection. I keep emphasizing and re-emphasizing the connection with the spiritual master to understand how to do this, to understand, to go from the bound condition, like the lady on the right, to the liberated position, and ultimately realize the name, as we mentioned before, the qualities of the Lord and the Leela of the Lord. This is the pictures we saw before about this. And getting bhakti, ultimately, from Srimati Radharani. And bhakti comes from Radharani and descends upon the jiva. And the jiva takes a spiritual body at the time of perfection and goes back to Godhead. And Krishna is so pleased to see us back with him that he faints in ecstasy. This is a picture from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And we experience the spiritual ingredients of what we call ras, which are the emotions that one experiences in the spiritual world. And vibhava means that which stimulates your emotion. Anubhava means the emotion that follows, like dancing in ecstasy, like we saw here before. Sattvika bhava means the emotions that are part of your nature, coming from the pure sattva gun. And vyabhachari bhava means the emotions that come unpredictably, ecstatically, and overwhelm you. Like one day you just go into trance and nobody knows what's happening with you until you come out of trance. And Sthai Bhava refers to your eternal rust with Krishna. Whether you're in the spiritual world, you're a coward boy, a gopi, you're the mother of Krishna, you're a servant of Krishna, etc. And all this comes by the Guru giving you his mercy and telling you and instructing you how to execute the Nava Bhakti principles, the nine processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering. So as I mentioned, we are very fortunate that we have as our ultimate instructor in the Krishna conscious movement, the founder Acharya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who is descended from the spiritual world, Shaktavesh Avatar, and he is giving us the perfect application of the process of Krishna consciousness for this day and age so we can reach spiritual perfection. So thank you very much. And that's in a nutshell, some of the topics discussed in the Harinama Cintamani. The Harinama Cintamani is available. Do you have any copies for sale? No, sorry. It's available on ISKCON on the internet. What? Krishna.com. You can order copies of it. I highly recommend it because if you study this book, you will understand how to come to the perfectional stage of chanting Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much. All glories to the Divine Grace, to the Prabhupada. Okay. Should I show that video? All right. I promise. Why don't you make your announcement while I get it set up in the meantime?
Hare Krishna. So let's thank His Holiness Sri Krishna Goswami Maharaj for the wonderful essence of the book Harinama Cintamani. So while Maharaj gets set up, just a few quick announcements. So coming up on our next big festival is on 7th of February. Is the appearance day of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Haribo! Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki! Sri Sri Panchatattva ki! And actually this